Now, I would like to invite Mr. Hodierne for his presentation from Dakot Media. Please.
Good morning, Professor Hodierne, guests, staff and students. I'd like to express our appreciation of the opportunity to address you today. I need to make one clarification right at the beginning. Right about there, we've taken the assumption that you would know what we're actually talking about. Ceramic media, I think most people consider that to be the substitution for steel balls. These are the big ceramic aluminum balls that are anything up to 50, 60 millimeters in diameter. In actual fact, we're talking about micromedia. This is media, little beads that are 5 millimeters and below. In fact, the average size used today is between 1 and 5 millimeters. So it's a significant difference. And it's a new sector of comminution. Okay. I'd like just to give a brief history because it is relatively new. If we look back now, there's always been a need to mill finer. Everybody wants to get down finer, but there are all sorts of drawbacks to that. You end up with a lot of ultra-fine material, things like that. So there's been a need. How do we mill finer? For a long time, nobody built a big mill. There was no reason to build a big mill to take fine media because the fine media was so damn expensive. You would pay $50, $60 a kilogram, and nobody wanted to do that because the investment in the media was more than the mill. So it was a chicken and egg. Nobody had anything going. And then around about the 80s in Australia, the people at Mount Isa had a need and they had a bright idea, so they started to develop stirred mills, and they were working on lead and zinc, strangely enough, which are relatively low-priced commodities, but it served a purpose. They got the recoveries from the material. And in 1935, Isa put out the first mill, and that was what today is known as the Isa Mill, and it now belongs to the Extrata Company, which is a spin-off from Isa Mining. And in 1998, there was the first application of the Mezzo SMD mills. That's another type of stirred mill. That comes from the English China Clays idea, which is owned by Emeris and marketed through Mezzo. Up to this point, it was still a situation where there was no media. Where could you get an Isa mill, a 3 cubic meter mill, takes several tons of media, and if you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a ton, it's not really economic. So they were using sand or crushed slag. The problem with that was it did work, but the sand was soft and you ended up with a lot of useless slimes that went through with your process, either into flotation or leaching. So there was a need to get something better. And at that stage, working with Isa, one of the major producers today of ceramic media, developed an alumina ceramic, and by that we mean it's literally an aluminium oxide, anywhere from 80% Al2O3 with a few other tweaks. And you end up with a little bead, and if it's a good product, it'll be an extremely hard bead. They have Vickers hardness of anything up to 1400, which is way above conventional steels in any form. So once that happened, now this particular people developing the media will manage to bring the prices down significantly. And suddenly there was no longer the chicken and the egg. Isa had produced a wonderful mill. We had the Mezzo SMD mill, and we had a cheaper ceramic media. And that's where things took off. 2005 was the first unit. Today, Extrata have 91 Isa mills globally, so in a very short period of time, it's a massive expansion. And strangely enough, I'm not sure if all of you know, but Turkey is one of the largest stirred mill installations in the world. It's a unique, I'm not going to go any further than that, I think probably you all know, but I won't advertise it for them. But it certainly is a major development. And all of these the mills now today, these installations use ceramic media. And in doing that, we've gone from a situation in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, where the global demand for ceramic media in general, that's globally into all applications, was around 5,000 tons. Today, I would say certainly this particular installation in Turkey alone probably uses the equivalent or more than the total global demand a few years ago. And in doing, like everything else, the prices come down. So right now, as I've said at the bottom here, the ceramic media or micromedia has arrived. It's a viable option now. Why ceramic media? I think the Well, apart from the fact that with ceramic media, the main thing is if you're milling extremely fine, and I'm talking about going down to 10 microns and ultra-fine grinding, you have far less fines than you would do in a conventional steel milling with large balls, which create a lot of slimes. And again, in hydrometallurgy, slimes are one thing you don't want. But I think the big one up here is what we call mainstream inert grinding, or MIG. It was developed by the platinum mines in South Africa. And the need for that is the fact that one of the problems when you're milling the steel is that certainly on fresh sulfide faces in an aqueous environment in mills, you end up with a problem where you get a pacification of your sulfide particle from iron oxides, iron hydroxides. To coat the surface, it's a molecular layer, but it's sufficient to absorb the oxygen and also to make it very difficult for either flotation, where your flotation reagent relies on adsorption. It's not a chemical reaction, it's actually a charge reaction, but the pacification stops the reagent adhering, so you don't float the very fine particles. They tend to go through into the tails and you lose them. And on leaching as well, there's been several, I was looking through the document this morning, and Professor Habashi has mentioned it, that one of the problems in any sort of leaching is the deprivation of the leach liquor of oxygen. And one of the problems there is iron will do that. By producing these oxides or hydroxide states, it's taking oxygen out of the situation. Ceramic media is inert. If you have a rubber-lined mill or a polyurethane mill with polyurethane discs and ceramic media, you don't have this. So you have what we call mainstream inert grinding. The platinum industry uses that to great effect. They've had a 4% increase in their recoveries just purely from inert grinding. If you work out what the platinum is worth these days, it's something like $1,700 an ounce. You multiply that by the amount they produce, it's a very significant value. In fact, they could pay off their entire installation of 22 mills just merely by having the benefit of inert grinding. The other, of course, is ultrafine grinding, which is everybody wants to get down to that last little sulfide particle. And we're talking, as I say, we can get down to 10 microns quite successfully in a very large mill. Eisen mills produce a 10 cubic meter unit. It's 1.8 meters in diameter. It can have up to 18 tons of 5 millimeter balls in it, or 3 millimeter balls. And the material lasts, it's a single pass, and the material is in there for approximately 30 seconds. And it will in that time go from around 150 micron down to 10 micron. That's okay, that'll depend on the work index of the material and that sort of thing, but that's what they're doing in the platinum industry. It's a single pass, and what's happening now is they've suddenly got a whole new population of available sulfides, which weren't there before. They were milling to 35, 40 micron, and these little particles of sulfide were lost. They were going out of the tailings. Suddenly these can be recovered without having to retreat your tailings. And the other factor is here, and this actually goes together with mainstream inert grinding, is if, in a lot of instances, your stock material is on stockpile for sometimes for months, certainly for a few days, it can be wet, rain, whatever, you already get on the fresh sulfide faces, you'll get an oxide coating, which again starts to pacify your sulfide. When it comes through into the mills, these very fine beads, you get a very much higher attrition milling, which is, it's not a crushing, it's a grinding. It cleans the surfaces as the material goes through. So it cleans up the faces again, you expose fresh faces, you remove that pacifying layer, again, you're in a better position to get maximum recoveries. And the final one, if the mill's set up properly, everything's well run, you've got it in balance, you inevitably start to reduce the overall power consumption. A lot of work has been done, particularly in Australia, and today, like everywhere else in the world, power is a major cost element, and you certainly can reduce this. So, using ceramic micromedia in the big mills is a viable option. In fact, it's so much so, the Eisen mill unit now have already designed, they're waiting for somebody to buy it, a 50, called the M50, which is a 50 cubic meter mill. It's nearly 3 meters in diameter, and I think it's 10 meters long. Stirred mill, it's a horizontal stirred mill. Quite an amazing unit. And they're looking at those to start milling iron ore in the Pilbara deposit, where they're going to start milling iron ore. It's magnetite, sorry, not conventional hematite ores, to mill magnetite down to very, very fine, to briquette it and to pre-reduce it for the iron ore industry. So it's getting to that stage where they can consider using ceramics as being a cost-effective even in the iron ore industry. Okay, ceramics are not ceramics. This is the first point we want to make. Everybody looks at the steel. If you buy a 30% chrome steel, it's a 30% chrome steel. They're all going to look pretty much the same. In ceramics, that's not the case. You have lots of stories. People will tell you the composition. They'll tell you, oh, but mine has got so much zircon or zirconium silicate. I put other things in it. It's got magnesium in it, all sorts of it. It has some effect, the composition. The zircon, zirconia, generally is used with alumina to gain density, nothing much else. It depends on how you make that particular bead, what you do to it in processing, the size of the raw materials going in, the firing, to get a bead, a proper bead. So don't be fooled by somebody telling you that it's better than the other guy because it's got more zirconia in it. That's not the case. Sizes, we produce a range, in mass range, from 0.2 millimeter right through to 5 millimeter. The conventional sizes at the moment are 2 millimeters, 3.5 and 5 millimeter sizes, but you can have smaller ones. The density, invariably you have three densities. You have the alumina species, which are all around about 3.8. You have the zirconium silicate, which is made from pure zirconium silicate, at around about 4.2, 4.3. And then you go into the really fancy medias where there is zirconia, stabilized ceria, and or yttria. Yttria is the hardest, but it's slightly lighter. Ceria will go up to 6.3, a density, and you're very close to iron at that stage, at 7. There's a trick, I'll come later to the fact with the ceria, but you can have something now, a ceramic bead that has almost the density of steel. One of the biggest things, obviously, is you're trying to get value for money. You're paying a lot of money for this media, so you need to have something that's not going to wear too quickly. And this is another major problem. You will get all sorts of wear rates depending on how the media is made. There are 3 different methods of production, and each one of those productions will give you a different wear rate. So that's another factor. You need to know the media you're buying or looking at. You need to know how it's produced. So that's the manufacturing process. The phase composition, when they start to mix zirconia with alumina, you start to get into all sorts of things called zirconia tetragonal polytoughening and things like that. It's a good word, but just by putting the zirconia in there, you don't necessarily get that effect. It has to be fired properly. So again, merely having zirconia in a media doesn't mean much. The milling application as well. Is it a vertical stirred mill? Is it a horizontal stirred mill? Is it a high-speed stirred mill? Is it a low-speed stirred mill? There's lots of applications. Each one has a different effect on the media. So again, you need to fit the media. It's horses for horses. Bead competency. Often in ceramics, you have a wonderful bead. The guy shows it to you. It's beautifully round. It's beautifully shiny. That's the outside. You've got to look inside. That bead's going to go through wear. It's going to get slowly smaller. And the moment you start to look out inside that shell, you can get down to porosity, to low densities, to a soft media. So you're looking for competency. One of the tests done by ISA, and it's done now as a conventional test by most of the big consumers, and that is that they do a Vickers hardness test right across the beads. They sample every batch they buy, polish section, and they do a Vickers right across it to make sure that they've got a consistency, sort of a mechanical integrity. Hardness, everybody says, look at my bead, it's a Mo 9, it's a fantastic bead, it's the hardest bead out there, you can't break it. Diamond is also tremendously hard, you can drop it and it'll crack. It's not the hardness, it's actually the toughness, that's what counts. It's difficult to quantify, but that's what you're looking for. So again, the only way really, if we're going to step back, first of all, you get what you pay for. You want to pay $20 a kilogram, $4 a kilogram, it's fine. You want to pay $60 a kilogram, you're going to get a fantastic bead. It's wonderful. But a handful of cerium stabilized beads is going to cost you $20 if you drop it. So housekeeping on a big mill, you have a 10 cubic meter mill, you drop a kilogram of beads, that's a lot of money down the drain. And you can't pick them up. They're 3 millimeters in size, they're gone. So bear that in mind. You get what you pay for. But one should consider these factors. And if you can see here, beads of a similar composition by different manufacturers. After 2 hours of milling in a test mill, they look fantastic, very similar. After 4 hours, when that nice shiny coat's gone, voila, this guy's collapsed, he's lost 24% of the mass, this one's still good. That's the competency, the shelf effect that you have to watch out for. Again here, we find that up 1 hour test right through, an 8 hour test even, things looking good. Right up here, with a slight difference, but suddenly, again, there's a massive difference after 48 hours. That shell has gone and worn down. So this is what you have to look for. You need that competency and the toughness. One of the factors here we mentioned in phase composition, if the bead is properly made with zirconia, this tetragonal zirconia polycrystal toughening, you actually get a work hardening. The bead gets harder. Strangely enough, but it actually work hardens. So you can get after 48 hours, or you actually get almost zero mass loss after 48 hours. Those are the sort of things you're looking for. And again, composition, it can have an effect. This is our own product, 2 different compositions, and you can see that there's a significant difference. This is a much harder version, a tougher version. But there's a significant, and the only difference there is the way it's not the composition, it's not the size, it's not the density, it's actually the way the processing is done. Okay, so we come to that. I've mentioned you need to look at these you've got to test. And if you talk to all of the guys at Julius Kutschmidt Technical Institute in Australia who work with ISA, and you talk to all the guys in the universities, they've got all these fantastic formula and things to look at and to study. The bottom line is, all of these can have an effect on it. The number of beads, that's really the bulk density. Collision probabilities, the amount of contact points because of the size of the bead. Bulk density of the beads, slurry densities and percentage solids, the tip speeds, media, the load filling, what sort of load you put in your mill. You can put in an 80% charge, you can put in a 50% charge. Sometimes 50% will give you better milling, better performance, lower energy than an 80%. So these you have to take into consideration. So in the end, it's no good doing it in a little 4-liter test mill in the lab. Ultimately, if you want to see if this thing works, you need to put it into the system. Put it online, take a mill out or get a large mill. All of these stirred mill suppliers provide large mills now, lab mills. They produce a 1 cubic meter mill or half cubic meter units. Test it on there. That's where you're going to find out what works. Okay, so this is just really, it's a summation on this, but it really is critical. This is not like conventional milling with steel media. You spend a long time looking at a stirred mill. Stirred mills are not cheap. They're very, very expensive, particularly units, the big ISA mills are made in Germany by Netsch. That in itself means you're getting the Rolls, well, not the Rolls Royce, in that case you're getting the Maybach or the Mercedes of mills. But believe me, you're going to pay for that mill. It's a wonderful mill, they're tremendous. All of these units, they're good. But the problem is if you select the wrong media, your project's going to fail. It's going to look around and the boss has said, well look, you've spent all that money, and what's happening? We're not getting any of the performance because your media was wrong. That was it. And that's it, guys. There goes your bonus and your promotion. You must get the right media. In ceramic media, it's not, one ball is not the same as the next other ball. It's very, very critical. So don't think just because you've got a fantastic mill, you're going to get the solution. You must do that. Okay, the commercials, we have to pay the way a little bit along the line here. So this is ourselves. We're in South Africa. We were fortunate in as much that we've been developing micromedia for a number of other applications in the paint industry, in pharmaceuticals, and the smaller applications where people buy 1 or 2 tons and it lasts them a lifetime. But we had developed a method of mass producing small beads of a significant strength. Along came the platinum industry in South Africa. The one group alone bought 22 ISA mills, and they needed a local supplier. That is an ISA mill there, you can see it. It's a long, it's a horizontal unit. It has a 3 megawatt motor on there, and they run about 12 tons of media inside it, and they have a consumption of about 12 tons of media a month. So we had this opportunity, and we developed our product, our ceramic products now, and we're now the major supplier to the platinum industry in South Africa. We have a very active R&D division which works directly with the mine, so we get a lot of good feedback, and we're getting online feedback, so we know what we're doing with our media. It's very good for us, and we can modify, and as I say here, we have continuous improvement. We're continuously looking at beads and modifying them. In fact, to give you an idea, the one I showed you a few slides back, the MAZ, the same powder used for that bead is now in a new generation of ballistic armor, for body armor, and it can stop an AK-47 round at 15 meters, 25 meters. As long as you don't get in the same hole again, you won't die. So that's the sort of power of this ceramics. These are new generations of ceramics. We have very strict quality control, ISO standards, right throughout our manufacturing process. We can trace back a bead per batch. If you tell me what bag that batch came from, that bead came from, I can show you and give you the test result, the certificate for it. Well, obviously, we're trying to get a consistent quality in the performance, and the bottom line is that we're competitively priced. In fact, we've managed to keep everybody honest in this deal right now by keeping our prices down significantly, because we produce all our own raw materials in South Africa, from the alumina through the zircon that we use and the zirconia, so we're able to keep our prices down very low. Gentlemen, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And now you can have lunch.
Thank you, Mr. Hodierne, for your very good presentation. This was the last presentation of first session of conference. Now we will have a break, and I hope to see you in the afternoon in the second session. Please enjoy.